This happened a few months ago. I had just moved into a quiet apartment, looking for a fresh start. After a tough breakup, I thought solitude would help me think and create. The first few nights were uneventful. I set up my workspace and decorated a bit. But by the fifth night, things took a turn. I woke up to muffled voices. They were low and seemed urgent. It felt like an argument coming from the neighboring unit. I tried to ignore it. After all, I had lived in worse places. I turned up my music and went back to sleep. But the voices didn't go away. They were there the next night. Louder this time. I heard thumps like furniture being slammed against the wall. My stomach dropped a little. What could be going on? Still, I pushed the thoughts aside. I figured my neighbors were just noisy. As days passed, I became more unsettled. I started peeking through the peephole. The hallway always seemed empty, but sometimes I caught a glimpse of someone standing silently against the wall. Their face was hidden, but I felt their eyes on me. It made my skin crawl. One night, I caught myself staring at the wall. I swore I could hear heavy breaths. My heart raced, and I didn't know why. I felt like I was being watched, trapped. Was I going crazy? But each night, the voices returned, rising and falling like a twisted melody. I decided to investigate. I called my landlord to ask who lived next door. When I asked, they told me nobody was listed there. I felt a chill run down my spine. That can't be right, I said. The landlord just shrugged, leaving me even more confused. One evening, I was trying to focus on work when the voices came back. This time, a haunting whisper mixed with anger. I couldn't ignore it anymore. I stood up and walked to the door. I wanted to confront whoever was on the other side. I knocked hard. The sound echoed down the hallway. I waited for a response, but nothing came. I knocked again. Silence wrapped around me like a heavy blanket, and I felt sweat trickle down my back. Did I really want to know what was happening? Finally, the door creaked open, just a crack. I peered in but saw no one. "Hello?" I called out, my voice trembling. The only reply was the hush of the hallway. I took a step back, unsure of what to do next. Suddenly, I heard a whisper behind me, chilling and soft. "Why are you here?" It felt like ice ran through my veins. I turned quickly, heart racing. The hallway was empty, just the flickering light overhead. I looked back at the door, still wide open, and then back to the empty space. What was happening? I don't know if it was my mind playing tricks or something darker lurking next door. But even now, I sometimes hear those voices, echoing in the quiet nights, and I wonder what really lives next door. I spent the next few days trying to shake off the dread that hung over me like a cloud. I forced myself to focus on my writing, but the words wouldn't come. Every creak of the floorboard sounded amplified. Every little sound sent a wave of anxiety through me. On the third night after the incident, I tried a different approach. I bought a pair of earplugs, hoping they would shield me from whatever chaos was erupting next door. I was determined not to let the disturbance disrupt my life any longer. But just as I settled into bed, ready to block out the world, I heard it. A loud crash followed by a series of frantic whispers. It penetrated the earplugs, sending shivers down my spine. I sat up, pulling them out in disbelief. The noise was unmistakable. It was like a bottle of glass being smashed, followed by muffled cries. Panic surged through me. I couldn't ignore it now. I had to know what was happening. I grabbed my phone, hesitating for a moment as I stepped into the dark hallway. The flickering light made everything feel surreal. My heart thudded against my ribcage. I felt like a walking target. I made my way toward the door that led to the neighboring apartment, the sounds intensifying with each step. I knocked again, my fists hard against the door, feeling a bit braver than I truly was. "Hello? Is everything okay?" I shouted. My voice echoed back at me, painfully loud in the oppressive silence. I pressed my ear against the door, straining to hear anything beyond it. It went quiet, too quiet. My stomach twisted. Just then, the door swung open. This time it opened fully. I stumbled back in surprise. The living room was dark, with only the dim glow of a lamp in the corner. I could see vague shapes standing in the shadows, their faces obscured. "Can I help you?" a deep voice asked, oddly calm. It didn't fit the atmosphere. I squinted into the shadows, trying to gauge their expressions. It felt like they were evaluating me as much as I was them. My throat tightened. I heard a commotion, I stuttered, feeling foolish. Are you okay? The persons exchanged glances, and a faint laugh came from the darkness. It was just a misunderstanding, the voice said. The laughter turned to whispers again, low and conspiratorial. I felt dread pooling in my stomach. I had still not seen their faces clearly, which gnawed at me. Before I could question further, the door began to inch shut. Wait, I called out, my instincts kicking in. I reached my hand out to stop it. I just needed to understand who they were, what was happening. Don't come back, the voice warned, suddenly cold. I felt a chill run down my spine. The door slammed shut, cutting off my view. I stood there, heart racing, wondering if I had just made everything worse. As I turned to head back to my apartment, I caught a glimpse of something, a shadow darting across the hallway wall. I stopped in my tracks. I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching me again. My gut twisted. Was I in over my head? I couldn't shake the voices or the sense that something was terribly wrong. I needed answers, and I was running out of time. I didn't sleep that night. I kept replaying the whispers, the laughter, the warning in my head. My heart raced with every creak of my apartment, and the shadow I had seen in the hallway lingered in my mind like a ghost. The next morning, I tried to shake off my unease with a mug of coffee. I figured a walk might clear my head. It was bright outside, but the sunlight didn't reach into my soul. I walked past my neighbor's apartment, half expecting another strange encounter, but there was only silence. I steeled myself, telling myself to stay calm. Maybe I was overreacting. As I strolled down the street, I spotted a small cafe. The scent of fresh pastries wafted toward me, and I felt a flicker of normalcy. I ordered a croissant and sat at a table outside, trying to gather my thoughts. That's when I noticed someone watching me. A woman in a dark coat stood across the street. Her gaze was intense, fixed on me. I glanced down, pretending to be absorbed in my phone. I didn't want to draw attention, but curiosity got the better of me. I sneaked another look, and she was still there, motionless, her head slightly tilted. Panic surged again. I debated whether to move or speak, but before I could decide, she crossed the street, her steps deliberate. My heart sped up. "Excuse me," she said softly but firmly. "I saw you talking to my neighbors the other night." Those words sent a chill through me. "You're their friend?" I managed to ask, trying to mask my surprise with casualness. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "This is serious. They're not who you think they are. You should stay away." Her eyes darted around as if she feared being overheard. I've seen things. Things I shouldn't have. My mind raced. Who was this woman? Was she warning me? Or was she part of whatever was happening? "What do you mean? What have you seen?" She glanced over her shoulder again, her face pale. "The noises you heard, they're not just misunderstandings. You're in danger." Before I could respond, she turned and hurried back across the street, disappearing into the crowd. I sat frozen, heart thudding, replaying her words. What danger? The shadows in the hallway? The whispers? As I walked home, I felt an unfamiliar weight settling in my chest. I wanted to dismiss her warning, but something deep inside urged me to listen. When I reached my building, I paused, glancing towards my neighbor's door. Should I knock again? I took a step forward but stopped. That's when I heard it. A distinct sound piercing through the brick walls. The sound of something heavy hitting the ground, followed by another round of rapid whispers. It felt like a distant echo of the chaos from the other night. I froze. I'd been right to be afraid after all. Emma had warned me, but now I couldn't ignore it. I needed to confront whatever was happening in that apartment. But was I ready for it? I clenched my fists, the decision made. I would not let fear control me any longer. I stepped toward the door, every beat of my heart urging me to discover the truth. I approached my neighbor's door, a knot of fear and determination in my stomach. The whispers had grown louder, almost frantic, mingling with an unsettling hum that vibrated through the air. I raised my hand, hesitating as I remembered Emma's warning. What if I was walking into something I couldn't handle? With a deep breath, I knocked. The sound echoed in the quiet hall, and I felt exposed, as if I were knocking on a tomb. I listened intently for any response, and for a moment, there was nothing but stillness. Then I heard it. A shuffle, followed by a low thud, like someone moving something heavy. My heart raced as the door slowly opened, revealing a glimpse of the shadowy interior. The man from the other night stood there, a forced smile on his face. "Hey, what can I do for you?" His voice was calm, too calm. I heard something," I stammered, trying to sound assertive. "I wanted to check in. Is everything okay?" He shifted, glancing over his shoulder toward the dimness behind him. "Oh, you know how it is. Just some late-night projects. Nothing to worry about." "Projects?" I echoed, incredulous. The tension in the air felt thick, almost suffocating. I wanted to step inside, to see what was really going on, but a sense of foreboding held me back. Before I could respond, he stepped closer, lowering his voice to a conspiratorial whisper. "Listen. Maybe it's best if you just forget what you heard. Some things are better left alone." His eyes darted away, as if he could see ghosts lurking beyond me. I squirmed under his gaze. I can't just ignore it. Something feels off. At that moment, the whispers picked up again, sharper, more frantic. I could feel them crawling under my skin, growing more insistent. The man's face shifted, the smile fading, revealing something darker. "Trust me," he said, voice tight. "You don't want to get involved in this." I caught movement from the corner of my eye. A shape flickering in the hallway, a figure standing just outside the edge of the shadows. I turned my head, but whatever it was seemed to slip away. Feeling trapped, I decided it was time to go. "Okay, I'll leave you to it." I took a step back, the sensation of dread swelling in my chest. The door began to close, but a sharp chill ran down my spine as I asked, "Will I see you again?" His smile reappeared, but it didn't reach his eyes. "You'll regret it if you do." I backed away from the door, the weight of his words pressing on me as I hurried back to my apartment. As I walked, the whispers lingered, an echo that followed me like a shadow. Once inside, I locked the door, exhaling a shaky breath. The encounter had left me rattled. I needed to talk to Emma again. Whatever danger was brewing, I could no longer deny its reality. But as I turned to reach for my phone, a sudden noise pierced through my thoughts. A crash followed by frantic knocking on my door. My blood ran cold. Someone was there. Someone needed help. Or maybe they were the cause of my fears. I approached the door slowly, tension coiling in my stomach. The knock came again, more urgent this time. I took a deep breath, gripping the doorknob. Would I find the answers I sought, or was this just the beginning of something far worse? I hesitated, my hand hovering over the doorknob. The knocking continued, pounding against my heart. "Who is it?" I called, trying to keep my voice steady. There was no answer, just that frantic knocking, like something desperate trying to get in. I leaned against the door, debating. Should I open it? What if it was someone in real danger, or worse? What if it was the man from down the hall? I remembered his dark eyes, the thin veneer of calm he wore. "Please, help!" A voice broke through my thoughts. It was high-pitched and shaky, a stark contrast to the urgency of the knocking. "I need help, please." Against my better judgment, I turned the knob and pulled the door open. The sight before me sent a jolt of fear through me. A woman stood there, disheveled and wide-eyed. Her clothes were torn, and there were smudges of dirt and something red on her hands. "Please," she gasped, glancing back down the hallway, her eyes filled with panic. "I saw him. He's coming." "Who?" I asked, my heart pounding. "You need to come inside. Come in." Before I could usher her through the door, she darted in, her body trembling. I quickly closed the door, locking it tight again. I backed away, watching her as she sank to the floor, breathing heavily. "I don't know where to go," she stammered, shaking her head. "He was right behind me. I thought I could get away." "Who was?" I pressed, crouching down to be at her level. She looked up, her fear palpable. "The man in 3B. He's not what he seems. He has something terrible." The whispers flared up again, swirling in my mind, and I felt the hairs on the back of my neck stand on end. The last encounter with that man surged back, making me sick with dread. Suddenly, a thud echoed from my door, causing me to jump. The woman stiffened and reached for my arm, her grip tightening. "He's here," she hissed. I glanced at the door, the heavy sound of knocking coming once more, this time with force. It felt like someone was trying to break through. In a surge of panic, I grabbed my phone from the table. No signal, just static. "The windows," I whispered. "We have to get away from the door." As we moved slowly toward the back of the apartment, the knocking intensified, a rhythm like a heartbeat. My breath caught in my throat as I tried to think. I could feel the woman beside me trembling uncontrollably. That's when I saw it. A shadow, darker than the hallway, moving behind the door. We weren't alone. Just as I opened my mouth to speak, the lights flickered and everything went dark. A scream echoed in the darkness, shattering the night. I stumbled in the darkness, panic flooding my senses. The air felt heavy around us, and the woman's breathing quickened beside me. "Where are you?" I whispered, hoping she could hear me. "I'm right here," she replied, her voice shaky. "But we need to move. He'll find us." I fumbled in the blackness, trying to remember where the furniture was. If I could just reach the kitchen, maybe I could grab a knife. The thought of defending myself was chilling, but the sound of the knocking resumed, louder this time, followed by a low, rumbling voice. "Open the door, sweetheart," the man called out, that same eerie calm wrapping around his words. "You can't hide in there forever." His tone sent a shiver down my spine. I scrambled, bumping into the coffee table and nearly falling. The woman gasped, and I quickly found her arm, squeezing it tight. "We need to go," I urged. "Where? There's no way out." Her voice was rising in desperation. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to think. "The fire escape. It's in the back. If we can get there." The woman nodded. Her face was pale but determined. Together we made our way toward the kitchen. My heart raced with every creak of the floorboards, every faint whisper of air. Each step felt like a countdown. Then the lights flickered back on. The sudden brightness almost blinded me, and I squinted against it. The woman froze, her eyes wide again, fixated on the door. "No, no, no," I murmured. I could see a shape standing just outside, a silhouette blurred by the glass of the door. "Please don't open it," the woman gasped, stepping back. "He's dangerous." But curiosity gnawed at me. Who was this man? What did he want? I took a cautious step closer to the door, peering through the peephole. It was hard to make out in the harsh light. I blinked, hoping my eyes would adjust. What I saw made my stomach drop. The man wasn't just standing there. He was holding something shiny, glinting in the light. It looked like a knife. "Open the door!" he yelled again, this time more forceful. "Or I swear, I'll come in." My mind raced. I could feel the beads of sweat forming on my forehead. Was he really threatening to break in? I couldn't stay there. Not now. I turned back to the woman. "We have to run," I said, urgency creeping into my voice. It would have to be now or never. With one last glance at the door, I pulled her toward the kitchen. As we hurried past the counter, I caught sight of the window that led to the fire escape. It was open, but I noticed something outside moving. "What is it?" she whispered, her eyes darting between me and the door. I peered closer through the window and my heart sank. Outside, two shadows lingered in the alley, both watching us. I could see their faces, grinning up at me, and there was something about their eyes that sent a jolt of fear through me. One of them looked eerily familiar. That feeling in my gut told me all I needed to know. There was nowhere safe anymore. I turned away from the window, panic surging through me. "We can't go out that way," I said, my voice trembling. I pulled the woman back, my mind racing to find another option. She looked at me, desperate. "What do we do?" she whispered. We were cornered, and the shadows outside were still there, their eyes glistening in the dim light. I could hear the man's voice growing more agitated, pounding on the door again. It felt like a countdown. "Shh!" I said suddenly, raising a finger to my lips. We need to be quiet. Just for a moment. I started to breathe slower, willing my heart to calm down. The woman mirrored me, but I could see her trembling. The knocking stopped, and I strained to listen. Together, I urged, leaning closer to her. On 3, we head for the back door. Understand? She nodded, her face resolute, but her eyes still wide with fear. 1, 2. Before I could say 3, everything shifted. There was a loud crash, the door splintered, and I felt the floor shake as the man's silhouette burst into the room. "Surprise!" he boomed, a twisted grin plastered across his face. I could barely process what was happening. My instincts kicked in. I grabbed the woman's hand and pulled her toward the kitchen again, but the man was faster, blocking our only escape. "What's the hurry, ladies?" he taunted, his grip tightening around the knife. "I just want to talk." "Please," the woman whimpered, backing against the counter. He took a step forward, and I could see the threat in his eyes. I had to act. With a quick glance to my left, I noticed the kitchen drawer was half open, the glint of metal inside catching my eye. "Stay behind me," I warned her as I dove for the drawer. My heart pounded. If I didn't find something to defend myself, we would be trapped. My fingers wrapped around a heavy knife. "Now you're armed?" The man laughed, a chilling sound that echoed off the walls. "That's cute." I held the knife in front of me, my hands shaking. "Stay back," I shouted, surprised by the fierceness in my own voice. He paused, studying me with a mix of amusement and irritation. "You really think that's going to save you?" Then everything went dark again, the lights flickering out. I felt the woman grasp my arm tightly. "What now?" she whispered. The knocking on the door began again, more frantic than before. The figure loomed in the dark, and I could hear his breathing, heavy like thunder. Then I heard a soft sound behind me. Something moving. My stomach twisted as I realized we weren't alone in the kitchen. I could hear the quiet scampering of what sounded like feet. "Hide!" I hissed. I turned in the direction of the sound, breath hitching in my throat. As I did, I saw something dart out from the shadows. My blood ran cold. It was one of the familiar shadows from the window, a younger face staring back at me with wide, fearful eyes. "Help!" the child whispered, trembling. Where had that kid come from? We were already in deep trouble, and now there was a child tangled in this mess. My mind raced. No matter our situation, I couldn't just leave a child behind. I had to find a way out. But now, we had a new complication. I crouched low, the knife clutched tightly in my hand, not sure how to help. My heart was racing, but I had to stay calm. "Shh," I whispered to the child, hoping to keep the panic from rising in my voice. "Stay close to me. Can you do that?" The child nodded, tears glistening in the scant light that flickered around us. I could feel the woman staring, her breathing quickening while we tried to stay hidden. The man was still there, looming over us, and the darkness made him seem larger than life. "Where are you, little rat?" he called out, his voice a sinister melody. He stepped forward, casting long shadows across the kitchen, searching for any sign of life. "I can smell your fear." I felt a shiver run down my spine as I squeezed the knife harder. "We need to move," I whispered to the woman and the child. "It's now or never." Still crouched, I slowly backed toward the kitchen door. "When I say go, we run." My voice was strained, but I forced myself to sound confident. The knocking escalated on the main door, and I could hear muffled voices outside. It felt like the whole world was closing in on us. I could sense the panic rising in the woman's eyes, and I wanted to assure her everything would be okay, if I only knew that myself. The child's small hand slipped into mine. "Please don't let him get me," they whispered, their tremor unmistakable. "I won't," I promised, even though I had no idea how to keep that promise. "On 3. 1, 2. Suddenly, the kitchen lights flickered again and were replaced with a terrible sound, the man's laughter echoing through the darkness. "You think you can escape me? I've already got you cornered. You know that, right?" His voice echoed off the walls, increasing my dread. I looked back at the door. It was our only way out, and I could hear the man moving closer. 3, I said, as I charged for the door. As I pushed it open, a blinding light flooded into the room. I raced outside, pulling the child and the woman behind me, but we weren't in the clear yet. The moment I stepped out into the light, I felt a hand grab my arm, yanking me back. I stumbled, dropping the knife. "Gotcha!" shouted the man, his grip strong as he dragged me back toward the shadows. "No!" I screamed as the woman and child screamed too, panic rising in a chorus. Just then, from the corner of my eye, I spotted something amazing. A small group of neighbors emerging from the driveway, their faces lit up with concern. "What's going on?" one shouted. Another held a phone, ready to call for help. But in that moment, the man's grip loosened as he turned to face the approaching voices. He hesitated, eyes darting back and forth between us and the wary neighbors. It was our chance. "Run!" I shouted, desperation fueling my voice. The woman and child took off, running toward the light of the street. I barely managed to break free from his grasp, stumbling forward. But just as I thought we might be safe, I heard the man's menacing voice call after us. "This isn't over!" That's when I realized he wasn't just a threat to me. He knew who I was, and I was already in deeper trouble than I could ever have imagined. I sprinted toward the street, heart pounding and legs screaming with effort. The woman and child were ahead, making a beeline for a group of neighbors who had gathered, their faces a mix of confusion and concern. I could hardly believe we had managed to escape that monster, but the sound of his voice echoed in my mind, a chilling reminder that he wasn't finished with us. "Are you okay?" one of the neighbors called out, a man wearing a plaid shirt stepping forward. His gaze shifted between me and the fleeing figures of the woman and child. "What just happened?" "I don't know," I gasped, still catching my breath. He was trying to hurt us." Panic was now mingling with adrenaline, making it hard to think straight. My hands shook as I glanced back at the house. A woman stepped up beside the man, her eyes wide. "Who was that? Are they still inside?" "He's gone," I said, though I couldn't shake the feeling that he was watching us from the shadows. But he knows me. He knows we're here. The realization made my stomach twist. What did he want from me? "Let's call the police," the man suggested, pulling out his phone. "We need to report this." As the man dialed, I turned my gaze to the darkness surrounding the house. I was now acutely aware that the threat might not be over. "You all should get inside. Lock your doors," I urged, looking down the street for any sign of danger. Just then, the child started to cry. "I'm scared," they said, clutching the woman's leg. I felt a wave of guilt. They shouldn't have had to go through this. "It's okay," I reassured, kneeling down to their level. "You're safe now." But the sound of footsteps crunching on gravel sent a chill down my spine. I looked down the street, where a figure was materializing from the shadows. My breath hitched. The man was returning. "No!" I shouted, pushing the woman and child behind me instinctively. My heart raced as I stood to face him, anger and fear mixing into a heady cocktail. "Get back!" "What's wrong, little rat?" he taunted, his grin sinister, enhancing the unease in the air. "Did you think you could escape? I just want to play a little longer." I knew I had to protect the others. "Stay away from them!" I yelled, moving forward to intercept him. But with each step, the weight of realization crashed down on me. This man was no average psychopath. He exuded confidence and twisted familiarity, like he was playing a game and I was just a piece on his board. "Don't get too worked up," he said, his voice dripping with mock concern. His eyes narrowed as he surveyed the neighbors. They looked like they could use some fun too. I felt a swell of fury and terror. "You don't want to do this," I said, desperately trying to keep my voice steady. But deep down, I knew that whatever this man was capable of, it was far beyond anything I could comprehend. Then everything went dark. The front porch lights flickered, and suddenly a loud bang echoed from the other side of the house. Everyone froze. What now? Before I had a chance to process what was happening, I heard the unmistakable sound of sirens in the distance, growing louder. But would it be enough? Would they arrive in time to save us from him and whatever game he had planned next? The sirens echoed closer, and I could feel the tension in the air shift, like a high-stakes game teetering on the edge. The man's grin faltered for just a moment as he looked down the street. Maybe he didn't want the spotlight shining on him. It sent a flicker of hope through me. "Everyone back inside! Now!" I shouted, not looking away from him. The neighbors instinctively moved, retreating toward the safety of their houses. I felt a surge of determination. We couldn't let him control the situation any longer. "Are you going to run away?" he taunted, stepping forward, his earlier bravado returning. The laughter in his voice rippled across the gravel, a bear's growl. "You think the sirens will help you now?" I tightened my grip on the knife I had clutched from the kitchen. "Stay away from them!" I shouted again, positioning myself between him and the oncoming rush of sirens. I didn't understand what had sparked this moment of courage, but I knew I couldn't let him harm anyone else. The man glanced toward the sirens again, seconds ticking by, his indecision palpable. He was a predator, weighing his options, and in that hesitation, I saw my chance. "Get the kids inside!" I yelled to the neighbors, and they hurried, ushering the woman and child into an apartment across the street. The air thickened, charged with the promise of confrontation. "You don't have to do this," I said, my voice louder than the panic churning in my stomach. "Just walk away. This isn't the way. Don't you see?" he said, eyes glinting with madness. "I thrive in this chaos. They're playing my game now, and the fun is just beginning." With those words, he lunged at me, the knife glinting under the porch light like a beacon of impending doom. I sidestepped, adrenaline amplifying my movements as I dodged his attack, adrenaline surging through my veins. Every instinct screamed at me to fight, to survive. The sirens grew louder, piercing the tension with a promise of safety. But I couldn't let my guard down. I fumbled backward, barely avoiding another swipe of his knife. I needed to get my feet under me, find my footing. With each step, he closed in, every word he spoke swirling chaos around me. And then, in that frantic moment of struggle, I heard it, a different kind of sound. Voices in the distance, commands shouted clearly through the darkness. "Police! Step away from the individual! Now!" The man hesitated. It was the crack of a foundation he couldn't ignore. I could almost see the decision flicker in his mind, and for the first time, fear tightened his jaw. The sirens had drawn nearer, and with it, the threat of capture loomed behind him. "Don't think you can just run," he snarled, his eyes darting between me and the approaching threat. "This isn't over." Before I could respond, he bolted, darting off into the shadows, slipping behind the bushes and fading into the darkness. I stood there, breathing hard, watching him disappear, my body shaking with adrenaline. "Stay where you are." A police officer stepped out from a squad car, meandering toward me. Others followed, their flashlights cutting through the night. "Are you all right?" I nodded, confused, eyes still trained on the shadows where he had vanished. He was trying to hurt us. Please, you have to catch him." Officers exchanged glances, and the urgency returned as they swept the area, searching every dark corner. I felt a pang of loss, knowing that the man had slipped through our fingers. "We'll search the area," one officer assured as he radioed in, but deep down, I felt the fear claw at me. Would he return? Would he go after others? "Can you tell us what happened?" My throat caught as I tried to recount the chaos, the whispers and shadows, the frail grip of fear that had clouded my mind. He said he knows me. He knows who I am. They nodded, expressions serious as they moved to question the neighbors who had gathered, ensuring everyone was safe. The crowd murmured, fear settling in, and I felt the weight of what had happened settle over me. As I stepped back, my jeans still damp with fear and sweat, I noticed the woman and child watching from across the street, their faces still pale. Relief washed over me as I caught the child's eye, who gave me a shaky nod, their trust holding a glimmer of hope amidst the chaos. But as the officers organized their search and the adrenaline began to fade, an unsettling chill swept through me. The man was still out there, somewhere hidden beneath the veil of night. And in the lingering silence that followed the sirens, I could still hear the echoes of his laughter, lingering like a phantom, leaving me with more questions than answers. Would I ever be free of that fear? I moved to find the two I had saved earlier, but as I turned away from the chaos, I felt the weight of the questions still pressing against my chest. What had I really stumbled into? How deep did the darkness go? I could only hope I wouldn't have to wait too long to find out.